The great hall of Kepler Station buzzed with voices from across the galaxy. Hundreds of beings from different worlds sat in curved rows, their strange forms creating a rainbow of colors and shapes. Some had 6 arms, others breathed different gases, and a few glowed with their own light. This was the Galactic Council, where the fate of billions was decided every month. Hyunwoo straightened his simple black uniform as he walked toward the human section. At 52 years old, he had served as Earth's main diplomat for over a decade. His gray hair was neat, his face calm, but his dark eyes showed worry. Something felt different today. Behind him, So-Jin followed in her military dress uniform. The former Special Forces officer kept her steps quiet, a habit from her soldier days. Her short black hair framed a face that had seen too many battles. She noticed how other delegates looked away when humans passed by. "They're acting strange. Today," So-Jin whispered to Hyunwoo as they took their seats. "I noticed," Hyunwoo replied. "Too many private conversations, too many closed meetings." At the front of the hall, Chairman Tae-min rose from his elevated platform. The Velkarian leader stood nearly 8 feet tall, his blue skin marked with silver patterns that showed his high rank. His 4 eyes swept across the assembly with obvious pride. When his gaze passed over the human section, his expression turned cold. "Honored delegates," Tae-min began, his voice carrying easily through the hall. "Today, we address a matter of great importance to galactic peace and stability." The hall fell quiet. Even the usual whispers stopped. "For too long, we have allowed dangerous elements to participate in our military operations. Species that act without thinking. Beings who choose violence over wisdom. Creatures who cannot control their emotions in battle." Hyunwoo felt his stomach tighten. He knew where this was going. "I present Emergency Resolution 847, Tae-min continued, activating a holographic display. "The complete military prohibition of human forces in all galactic conflicts." The words hung in the air like a death sentence. So-Jin's hand moved to where her weapon would normally rest, finding only empty air. Hyunwoo placed a calming hand on her arm. Delegate Vex 7 of the crystalline hegemony stood up. His body looked like living crystal, reflecting light in sharp patterns. "The hegemony supports this resolution completely," he announced. "Humans make decisions based on feelings, not logic. They are unreliable in combat situations." Murmurs of agreement rippled through the hall. Commander Zale of the Void Runners laughed, a sound like grinding metal. "Their weapons are primitive. They still use bullets and explosives when civilized species have moved beyond such crude methods." More voices joined in. Delegate after delegate stood to condemn humanity's military practices. The Zephyrians called humans too aggressive. The methane breathers said they were short-lived and therefore poor strategic partners. The Silicon Collective claimed humans were biologically inferior for space warfare. Hyunwoo stood slowly, his dignity intact despite the attacks. "May I respond to these charges?" Taemin's expression showed annoyance. "You may speak, but briefly." "Thank you, Chairman." Hyunwoo's voice carried clearly through the hall. "For the past century, human forces have served alongside our galactic allies. We have helped end 17 major conflicts through peaceful negotiation. Our soldiers have died protecting worlds that were not our own. Our fleets have kept trade routes safe for all species." "Yes," interrupted Delegate Korth of the Plasma Cities. "But at what cost? Humans always escalate situations. They fight when they should talk. They shoot when they should think." That's not true, Sojin said, standing beside Hyunwoo. Human. Peacekeepers have prevented more wars than any other species. Our casualty rates are lower because we end conflicts quickly and completely. Exactly our point, Taemin's voice boomed. You end conflicts through violence. Civilized species find better ways. Like the war between the Helix colonies that lasted 40 years until human mediators arrived? Hyunwoo asked quietly. The hall went silent for a moment. Several delegates looked uncomfortable. The Helix War had been a bloody disaster until human forces imposed peace through superior tactics and fair negotiation. But Taemin was ready. Ancient history. The galaxy has evolved beyond the need for human methods. The vote began immediately. One by one, species declared their position. The Valkyrians voted yes. The crystalline hegemony voted yes. The Void Runners voted yes with obvious pleasure. The pattern continued across the hall. Hyunwoo watched the tally grow. 847 species in favor. Only 12 opposed. Most of those 12 were small worlds that had been directly saved by human intervention in recent years. Even some of Earth's oldest allies voted for the ban. Resolution 847 passes, Taemin announced with satisfaction. Effective immediately, human military forces are banned from participating in any galactic conflict, peacekeeping mission, or joint military operation. Human warships must return to Earth space within 30 standard days. The hall erupted in discussions. Some delegates seemed pleased, others worried. The humans sat in stunned silence. Sojin's jaw clenched as she watched beings celebrate their dismissal. These same creatures had called for human help when pirates threatened their trade routes. They had begged for human protection when aggressive neighbors made threats. Now they acted like humanity was the problem. What about the defense agreements? Hyunwoo asked, his voice cutting through the noise. Taemin smiled, showing sharp teeth. Terminated. The galaxy no longer requires human protection. We have evolved beyond such primitive needs. As the session ended, other delegates filed out quickly. Few made eye contact with the human representatives. Those who did showed embarrassment or guilt, but none spoke up. Hyunwoo and Sojin walked slowly from the hall. In the corridor outside, Sojin finally spoke. They'll regret this, she said quietly. Maybe, Hyunwoo replied. But by then, it might be too late. Above them, through the station's transparent dome, the stars looked the same as always. But something had changed in the galaxy. The protectors had been dismissed. The guardians had been sent home. And in the darkness between the stars, something ancient stirred, sensing weakness where once there had been strength. The galaxy had chosen to stand alone. Soon it would learn the true cost of that choice. As news of the ban spread across human space, Earth's military commanders received their orders. Ships began the long journey home, leaving empty patrol routes and unguarded borders behind. The age of human protection was over. Whether the galaxy was ready for what came next remained to be seen. 6 months had passed since the vote that changed everything. General Jin Ho stood in his empty office on Luna Base, looking out at Earth through the reinforced windows. At 65, the old Marine had fought in 12 different conflicts across the galaxy. Now he was packing boxes, forced into retirement because the galaxy no longer wanted human soldiers. General, his aide knocked on the door. The news feeds are showing another situation in the Outer Rim. Jin Ho turned on the holographic display. The reporter, A nervous Zephyrian spoke rapidly about pirate attacks on 3 mining colonies. The pirates had destroyed 2 cargo convoys. In the past week, local security forces were overwhelmed. "Where are the patrol fleets?" Jin Ho muttered. Then he remembered. Human patrol fleets used to handle the outer rim routes. Now there was nothing. On the other side of Earth, Yuna guided her small cargo ship through the asteroid belt. The young pilot had dreamed of flying fighter ships and protecting trade routes. Instead, she now carried supplies to mining stations, escorted by no one, watching her scanner for threats she couldn't handle alone. Her comm system crackled to life. "Cargo. Ship, this is Freighter Captain Lee. I'm seeing some unusual readings ahead. You might want to change course." Yuna checked her instruments. 3 ships were approaching from behind an asteroid. Their energy signatures looked wrong. "Captain Lee, those look like raider ships." "Copy that. I'm calling for help, but there was no help coming. The human patrol ships that used to protect these routes were gone. The other galactic species considered cargo protection beneath them." Yuna changed course quickly, her heart racing. These mining runs had become dangerous without military escorts. Pirates knew the routes were unguarded now. Meanwhile, on Kepler Station, Hyunwoo sat in his small diplomatic office. The same aliens who used to seek his advice now walked past without acknowledging him. His requests for meetings were ignored or postponed indefinitely. So Jin entered, carrying a datapad. Her new job as cultural exchange coordinator was clearly busy work designed to keep her out of important matters. "The situation reports keep getting worse," she said, setting down the pad. Hyunwoo read through the latest incidents. Border disputes between the Velcarian Empire and the Zerion Federation had escalated into shooting matches. 3 separate colonies reported increased bandit activity. 2 minor wars had broken out over trade route disputes. These problems used to be solved before they became serious, Sojin observed. "Human peacekeepers," Hyunwoo agreed. "We mediated disputes before they became wars. We protected trade routes so pirates couldn't establish bases. We were the neutral party everyone trusted. And now they're learning what the galaxy looks like without human stability." The problems went beyond piracy and border disputes. On Earth, Defense Command Director Dong-woo faced a crisis of morale. Thousands of highly trained soldiers had been told their services were no longer needed. Some had found civilian jobs, but most remained in military service, training for missions they might never fly. "Sir," his communications officer reported, "we're receiving distress calls from 17 different systems. Pirates, raiders, territorial disputes, resource conflicts. The local authorities can't handle them." Dongwoo studied the reports. Each situation was small on its own, but together they painted a picture of growing chaos. "What about the galactic species response?" "They're arguing about jurisdiction. The Velcarians say the Outer Rim isn't their responsibility. The crystalline hegemony claims their ships aren't designed for patrol duty. The Void Runners are demanding payment up front for any security services. And while they argue, innocent people suffer," Dongwoo said quietly. The breaking point came during what history would call the Helix Nebula incident, a mining dispute between the Velcarians and Zerians over mineral rights in an uninhabited system spiraled out of control. Both sides sent warships to claim the territory. In the past, human diplomats would have mediated the dispute while human peacekeepers maintained order. Now, with no neutral party to trust, both empires prepared for battle. Chairman Taemin received reports of the military buildup with growing concern. He called an emergency meeting with his top advisors. The situation is more serious than expected, his military chief reported. Both sides have deployed significant forces. Neither will back down without losing face. Can we mediate? Taemin asked. The Zarians don't trust us because of our trade agreements with their rivals. The Velcarians, well, they're our people, but that means the Zarians won't accept our mediation. Taemin felt a moment of doubt. In similar situations, human diplomats had always been available as neutral mediators. Their military had no territorial ambitions, no trade preferences, no political connections that made others distrust their motives. What about other species? The crystalline hegemony considers both empires emotional and refuses to get involved. The Void Runners are offering to sell weapons to both sides. The plasma cities claim the conflict is beneath their notice. As the two fleets faced each other in the Helix Nebula, smaller conflicts erupted elsewhere. Without human patrol ships, pirate activity increased dramatically. Trade routes became unsafe. Colonies that had enjoyed decades of peace suddenly faced raiders and smugglers. Yuna experienced this firsthand when 3 pirate ships cornered her cargo hauler near the Titan mining station. Her small defensive weapons were no match for military-grade raiders. "Cargo ship, prepare to be boarded," the pirate captain announced over the comm. Yuna's hands shook as she transmitted a distress signal. In the past, human patrol ships would have responded within minutes. Now, the nearest help was hours away, and it might not come at all. She was saved by an unexpected source. Captain Jae-min, a retired human Navy officer now running supply missions, appeared with 2 other ex-military pilots. Their civilian ships weren't warships, but they were flown by people who knew how to fight. Pirates. "This is Captain Jae-min. You have 30 seconds to leave this system," the pirate leader laughed. "Old man, you have no authority here. The humans have been banned from military action." "True," Jaemin replied calmly. "But we're not military anymore. We're private citizens protecting our trade routes." The fight was brief. The ex-military pilots used tactics the pirates had never seen, coordinating their attacks with precision that surprised even themselves. The raiders fled, damaged and confused. Later, as Yuna docked her cargo ship safely, she sent a message to Jaemin. "Thank you, Captain. How did you know to help?" "Word gets around," he replied. Retired human military pilots talk to each other. "We hear about problems in sectors we used to patrol. Old habits, you know. Similar incidents were happening across human space. Retired soldiers and sailors found themselves drawn back into conflicts, not as official peacekeepers, but as concerned citizens who couldn't stand by while innocent people suffered." On Kepler Station, Hyun-woo noticed the change in how other diplomats treated him. The smugness was fading, replaced by worry. Several species had requested informal discussions about theoretical security problems. Hypothetically, Delegate Korth approached him. In private, if a species wanted to request consultation on a piracy problem, what would the process be? Hypothetically, Hyun-woo replied. That species would need to formally request human assistance through official channels. But of course, Resolution 847 prohibits human military involvement. Korth looked uncomfortable. "What about non-military assistance?" "I'm not sure what you mean." But Hyun-woo knew exactly what he meant. The galaxy was learning that human military strength had been only part of their contribution. The real value was the stability, the neutral mediation, the reliable protection that allowed trade and diplomacy to flourish. As reports of increasing chaos reached Kepler Station, some delegates began to express private doubts about the ban. But pride prevented them from admitting their mistake publicly. The galaxy had voted for independence from human protection. Now they were learning the true cost of standing alone. And in the deep space between the stars, something ancient and hungry watched the growing chaos with interest. The time of testing was about to begin. The first warning came from the Deep Space Monitoring Station on the edge of the galaxy. Dr. Minho had been studying cosmic radiation patterns when his instruments detected something impossible. Ships, hundreds of them, moving in perfect formation, from the void beyond known space. "Yunji," he called to the station captain over the comm, "you need to see this data." Captain Yunji arrived at the sensor station within minutes. The former human Navy officer studied the readings with growing concern. The ships were massive, larger than anything in the galactic fleet databases. Their energy signatures were completely unknown. "How long until they reach inhabited space?" she asked. "At current speed, 18 days to the Zarian outer colonies," Minho replied. "But Captain, there's something else. These ships, they're not following any known navigation pattern. They're heading straight for populated systems, ignoring empty space completely." Yunji felt cold fear grip her chest. In her 20 years of military service, she had learned to recognize threats. This felt different from anything she had encountered before. "Send immediate warnings to all nearby systems," she ordered. "Full priority emergency broadcast. The first alien species to encounter them were the Zerions at their mining colony on Kepler 442b. The colony administrator, a peaceful being named Vel 9, watched in confusion as enormous dark ships appeared at the edge of his system. Unknown. Vessels. This is Kepler 442b mining station, Vel 9 broadcast. Please identify yourselves and state your business. The response came not in words, but in action. Beams of unknown energy lanced out from the alien ships, striking the colony's defensive satellites. The weapons didn't just destroy the satellites, they completely disintegrated them, leaving no debris behind. "This is Kepler 442b requesting immediate assistance." Vel 9's voice carried panic now. "We are under attack by unknown hostile forces." The colony's small defensive fleet launched to meet the invaders. 12 Zarion patrol ships, armed with the latest plasma weapons, engaged the alien vessels. The battle lasted less than 5 minutes. The alien ships seemed to study each attack, learning from every weapon discharge. After the first few exchanges, their defensive shields adapted completely. Zerion weapons became useless. Then the aliens counterattacked with precision that suggested perfect knowledge of Zerion ship weaknesses. When the communication ended abruptly, the Zerion Empire sent their fastest scout ships to investigate. They found empty space where a thriving colony of 50,000 beings had existed. No debris, no survivors, no trace that anything had ever been there. The aliens, who would come to be known as the Devourers, had announced their presence to the galaxy in the most terrifying way possible. They didn't conquer territory or demand surrender. They simply erased everything they encountered. News of the attack spread quickly through galactic communication networks. Emergency sessions were called on every civilized world. The Galactic Council convened in permanent session as reports flooded in. 3 more Zarian systems went dark over the next week. Each time, scout ships sent to investigate found the same thing: empty space where colonies had existed. The Devourer fleet grew larger with each attack, somehow converting captured resources into new ships with impossible speed. Chairman Tai Min stood before the emergency assembly, his usual confidence replaced by barely controlled fear. "The threat level exceeds all previous classifications," he announced. "We face complete extinction if these devourers cannot be stopped." The great military powers of the galaxy mobilized their fleets. The Velkarian Empire deployed its elite battle groups. The crystalline hegemony activated its automated defense systems. The Void Runners assembled their most advanced warships. The first major engagement occurred at the Battle of Crimson Gate, a strategic junction system that controlled access to 17 inhabited worlds. Fleet Admiral Kex Prime of the Velkarian Empire commanded over 400 ships, the largest military force assembled in galactic history. "All ships, maintain formation," Kex Prime ordered as his fleet engaged the Devourer forces. "Concentrate fire on the lead vessels." The initial assault seemed successful. Velkarian weapons struck Devourer ships, causing visible damage. Kex Prime allowed himself a moment of hope. Then the enemy adapted. Within minutes, Devourer shields evolved to completely resist Velkarian weapons. Their return fire was devastatingly precise, targeting specific ship systems with knowledge that seemed impossible for an unknown enemy to possess. "They're learning our attack patterns in real time," Kex Prime's tactical officer reported. "Every shot we fire makes them stronger." The Velkarian fleet, pride of the Empire, was destroyed in 4 hours. Only 17 ships escaped to carry word of the defeat. The Devourers consumed the wreckage and continued their advance toward the core worlds. Panic spread through the galactic community. If the mighty Velkarian fleet could be defeated so easily, what hope did other species have? Emergency meetings continued around the clock. Military leaders from every species shared data, looking for weaknesses in the Devourer forces. But every engagement ended the same way. Initial success, followed by enemy adaptation, followed by complete defeat. "We need new tactics," Commander Zale of the Void Runners argued during one session. "These enemies learn too quickly from conventional attacks." "What do you suggest?" asked Delegate Vex 7. "Our best military minds have analyzed every battle. The Devourers seem to have perfect knowledge of our capabilities." "That's the problem," realized Dr. Core 8 of the Scientific Collective. "They know how we fight because they've been watching us. Our battle tactics, our weapon systems, our strategic thinking, it's all been recorded and studied." The terrible truth began to emerge. The Devourers had been observing galactic civilization for centuries, learning every detail of how different species conducted warfare. They knew exactly how to counter every weapon, every tactic, every strategy the galaxy could deploy. As the enemy advance continued, individual species began making desperate decisions. The methane breathers announced they were evacuating their home systems. The Silicon Collective sealed their borders and refused to help other species. The plasma cities declared neutrality and began negotiating with the Devourers. On Kepler Station, the atmosphere grew more desperate each day. Hyunwoo watched as proud alien leaders who had dismissed human military capabilities now begged for any solution to save their civilizations. Perhaps, Chairman Taemin approached him privately, human perspectives might offer insights into this crisis. Hyunwoo looked at the Velkarian leader calmly. "Are you asking for human military assistance, Chairman?" "Not officially," Taemin replied quickly. "But theoretical discussions about combat strategies might be valuable." "I'm afraid Resolution 847 prevents any human military involvement," Hyunwoo replied. "Theoretical or otherwise. The galaxy voted to handle conflicts without human barbarity, Remember? Taemin's shoulders sagged. The situation is desperate. These devourers are unlike anything we've faced. They adapt to every attack. They learn from every battle. Our conventional military thinking is useless against them. That does sound challenging, Hyunwoo agreed. Perhaps the civilized species of the galaxy will find an elegant solution that doesn't require human methods. But privately, Hyunwoo was deeply worried. He had been receiving reports from human intelligence networks throughout the galaxy. The situation was even worse than the public knew. The Devourers weren't just random destroyers, they showed signs of sophisticated intelligence and long-term planning. So Jin found him in his office later that evening, reviewing classified reports on her personal tablet. The human monitoring stations detected them months ago, she said quietly. Earth Command has been tracking their approach since before the vote. Hyunwoo nodded grimly. And preparing countermeasures. Will it be enough? I don't know, he admitted. But I know one thing. When the Devourers reach the core worlds, the galaxy will face a choice. Accept human help, or face extinction alone. Outside the station windows, the stars looked the same, as always. But somewhere in that darkness, an implacable enemy advanced toward the heart of galactic civilization, learning and adapting with every victory. The galaxy had rejected human protection when peace made it seem unnecessary. Now, with extinction approaching, they were beginning to understand what they had truly lost. The breakthrough came from the most unlikely source. Jae-sung had been presumed dead for 3 weeks after his deep reconnaissance mission went silent near Devourer territory. The human intelligence operative had volunteered for an impossible task: infiltrate a Devourer processing facility and gather tactical information. His stealth ship, designed with experimental human technology, had avoided detection while the Devourers consumed the Zirion border worlds. What Jae-sung discovered would change everything. Communications Officer Hai-Wan was monitoring deep space frequencies when a faint signal appeared on her instruments. "This is Shadow 7, requesting emergency extraction," came the weak transmission. "Priority Alpha intelligence package." Hai-Wan's hands shook as she recognized Jae-sung's call sign. The operative had been given up for dead weeks ago. "Shadow 7, this is Monitor Base. We read you. What's your status?" "Alive, but barely. I have the intel. You need to see this footage immediately." The rescue mission launched within hours. Jae-sung was found drifting in a damaged escape pod at the edge of Devourer space, unconscious but alive. His helmet camera and data storage had recorded everything during his infiltration of the alien processing facility. When Jae-sung woke up in the medical bay, the first words he spoke were, "Show the footage to Earth Command. All of it. They need to see what's really happening." The recorded data contained horrors beyond imagination. The Devourer ships weren't just weapons of war, they were massive factories that converted conquered worlds into resources. Entire populations were processed into energy. Planetary materials became new ships. Knowledge and technology were absorbed and improved upon. But hidden within the tactical data were files that had nothing to do with the Devourers. Jae-sung's infiltration programs had accessed other records in the facility's computers, records of recent galactic conflicts and military activities. What those files revealed stunned everyone who saw them, while the galaxy had been congratulating itself on eliminating human military involvement. Human forces had been conducting covert operations throughout the past 6 months. The footage showed human special forces teams secretly mediating the Helix Nebula conflict, preventing it from escalating into a sector-wide war that would have killed billions. The operations were conducted in complete stealth, with both Valkyrian and Xerion forces never knowing human peacekeepers were coordinating their withdrawal. Human intelligence networks had prevented 3 separate genocides by providing early warning to potential victims, allowing evacuations that saved millions of lives. The warnings appeared to come from lucky intelligence breaches or fortunate communication intercepts. Human tactical advisors, working through encrypted channels, had guided alien military forces during the early Devourer encounters, minimizing casualties and maximizing escape opportunities. The advice appeared to come from veteran officers within the alien militaries themselves. Most shocking of all were the casualty reports. 47 human soldiers had died in these covert operations. They had given their lives protecting worlds that had voted to ban them, receiving no recognition, no honors, no acknowledgement that they had ever existed. But the most important discovery was buried deep in the intelligence files. Detailed analysis of Devourer capabilities and comprehensive battle plans for countering their advance. Human forces had been tracking the alien threat for months, developing strategies specifically designed to exploit the one weakness the Devourers possessed: their reliance on predictable enemy behavior. The files showed that while other species fought using standard military doctrine that the Devourers could easily analyze and counter, humans had developed completely unpredictable combat methods, tactics that broke every rule of civilized warfare, strategies that seemed insane until you understood their purpose. On Kepler Station, Security Chief Byung-ho of the Nethian Defense Corps discovered the footage during a routine intelligence review. The Nethian officer had worked with humans for 15 years and respected their military capabilities, even if his government had voted for the ban. Byung-ho found himself facing an impossible choice. Revealing the footage would prove that humans had been right about everything: the threat, the solutions, and the galaxy's need for their protection. But it would also expose his own species' complete dependence on human covert operations for their security. For hours, Byung-ho stared at the evidence. Outside his office, the emergency sessions continued as alien leaders desperately searched for answers that humans had already found. The Devourer fleet was only days away from the core worlds, and conventional military responses had proven useless. The crystalline hegemony had announced complete defensive failure. The Void Runners were in full retreat. Even the proud Valkyrian Empire was preparing to evacuate their capital world. The galaxy was facing extinction, and the leaders who had banned human military involvement were helpless to prevent it. Meanwhile, on Earth, Defense Command Director Dong-Wu received the intelligence package from Jae-sung's mission. The data confirmed what human strategists had suspected. The Devourers were powerful, but not invincible. They had one critical weakness. They're perfect at countering known tactics, Dong-Wu explained to his staff. But they can't adapt to things they've never seen before. Their entire strategy depends on predicting enemy behavior based on recorded patterns, which is why they've defeated every galactic fleet so easily, his tactical officer realized. They've been watching galactic military doctrine for centuries. They know exactly what every species will do in combat, but they don't know how humans fight when we're not following galactic military protocols, Sojin added, having been quietly recalled to active duty weeks earlier. They don't know our real capabilities because we've always held back when working with alien allies. The truth was sobering. Human military forces had spent decades fighting alongside alien allies, adapting their tactics to work within galactic military doctrine. They had never shown their true capabilities, never revealed the full extent of human combat innovation, never demonstrated what happened when humans fought without restrictions. The question now, Dongwu said quietly, is whether the galaxy will accept our help when they finally realize they need it. On Kepler Station, that moment was approaching rapidly. The latest reports showed Devourer forces had broken through the last defensive lines. 3 core worlds had already been evacuated. Panic was spreading through the galactic government. Chairman Tae-min called another emergency session, but this time the hall was half empty. Many delegates had fled to their home systems. Those who remained looked defeated and desperate. The military situation continues to deteriorate, Tae-min announced. Our fleets cannot match Devourer adaptation capabilities. Unless new solutions emerge, we face complete civilization collapse within days. In the observation gallery, Byung-ho watched the proceedings with growing frustration. These leaders were discussing evacuation plans and defensive strategies that had already failed elsewhere, while the real solution sat in his office files. The Nethian security chief made his decision. Standing up in the gallery, he called out, "Chairman Tae-min, I have critical intelligence to share with the Assembly." "The floor does not recognize gallery observers," Tae-min replied dismissively. "This intelligence concerns the survival of every species in this room," Byung-ho continued loudly. "I have evidence that changes everything we know about the current crisis." The hall fell silent. Desperate beings grasped at any hope, no matter how slim. "What evidence?" Delegate Vex 7 asked. Byung-ho took a deep breath. Once he revealed the footage, there would be no going back. The galaxy would learn the truth about human sacrifice, human preparation, and human solutions to the crisis that threatened them all. "Evidence that humans have been protecting us all along," he said simply. "Evidence that they saw this threat coming months ago. And evidence that they know how to stop it." The chamber erupted in shocked voices. Some called for immediate disclosure. Others demanded proof. A few accused Byung-ho of human sympathies. But in the chaos, one voice rose above the others. Hyun-woo stood slowly in the human section, his dignity intact despite months of dismissal and humiliation. "If the Assembly wishes to see this evidence," he said calmly, "we are prepared to share it. But I want the record to show that humanity did not volunteer this information to prove our worth. We volunteered it to save lives." The vote to review Byung-ho's evidence was unanimous. Even species that hated humans voted yes, driven by desperate hope that somewhere in the intelligence files might be the key to survival. As technicians prepared the display systems, Byung-ho realized that everything was about to change. The footage would reveal not just human capabilities, but human character. The galaxy was about to learn what it had really lost when it banned human protection. And somewhere in the darkness between stars, the Devourer fleet continued its relentless advance toward the moment when humanity would face its greatest test. The Great Hall of the Galactic Council had never been quieter. Every seat was filled now, as delegates who had fled in panic returned when word spread about the critical intelligence. The air felt heavy with desperation and fading hope. Byung-ho stood at the central podium, his hands steady despite the weight of what he was about to reveal. The holographic display system activated, filling the chamber with three-dimensional images that would change everything. "What you are about to see," Byung-ho began, was recorded by human intelligence operative Jae Sung during his infiltration of Devourer processing facilities, but the files contain more than tactical information about our current enemy. The first footage showed the interior of Devourer ships. The chamber fell silent as delegates witnessed the industrial-scale processing of conquered worlds, but gasps echoed through the hall when the display shifted to different files, recordings of recent galactic conflicts. The Helix Nebula conflict appeared on screen, but not as anyone remembered it. The footage showed small human stealth ships moving between the opposing fleets. Teams of human negotiators working in secret, creating communication channels between hostile commanders. The gradual de-escalation that prevented galactic war had not been luck or alien wisdom. It had been human intervention. "This is impossible," Chairman Taman whispered, but his voice carried through the silent hall. The humans were banned from military operations. The footage continued. Border disputes that had mysteriously resolved themselves, pirate attacks that failed due to fortunate intelligence breaches, trade route conflicts that ended in unexpectedly fair negotiations. All of it orchestrated by human forces working in complete secrecy. Then came the most shocking revelation: casualty reports. Names, faces, and service records of 47 human soldiers who had died protecting worlds that had voted to ban them. They had received no recognition, no honors, no acknowledgement. They had died as ghosts, their sacrifice known only to their human comrades. Delegate Vex 7 of the crystalline hegemony stood slowly, his crystalline form reflecting the display light in sharp patterns. "These humans, they continued protecting us even after we rejected them." "The evidence appears conclusive," Byung-ho replied, "but there's more." The next files showed detailed analysis of the Devourer threat. Human intelligence had identified the alien fleet months before their first attack. Comprehensive battle plans filled the display, strategies specifically designed to counter Devourer adaptation capabilities. "They knew," Commander Zale of the Void Runners said in amazement. "The humans knew this was coming and prepared for it while we were arguing about trade disputes." The strategic analysis revealed the key insight. Devourers could counter any known military doctrine because they had been studying galactic warfare for centuries, but they had never seen humans fight without restrictions. Every human engagement, alongside alien allies, had followed galactic military protocols, hiding humanity's true combat capabilities. Hyun-woo stood slowly as the footage ended. The hall remained silent, waiting for him to speak. When he did, his voice was calm but carried the weight of months of dismissal and humiliation. "For 6 months you have celebrated eliminating human involvement in galactic conflicts," he said. "For 6 months human soldiers have died in darkness, protecting species that voted to abandon them. For 6 months we have watched and prepared for threats you could not see, hoping we were wrong about what was coming." He activated his own holographic display, showing real-time tactical information. But instead of the hopeless situation the Council believed they faced, the display revealed a comprehensive defense network. Human ships positioned throughout the galaxy in hidden bases, stealth fleets ready for deployment, strike forces armed, with weapons and tactics the Devourers had never encountered. "The Devourer fleet will reach the core worlds in 18 hours, Hyun-woo continued. "They will meet the full force of the Human Defense Corps. Not because you have asked for our help, but because protecting innocent life is what we do. It is who we are." So Jin stepped forward, now wearing the uniform of a Human Defense Corps admiral. The transformation was startling. The quiet military attaché had become a commanding officer ready for the greatest battle in galactic history. Resolution. 847 is hereby declared null and void by human unilateral action, she announced. We are resuming our role in galactic defense, not because you have invited us back, but because billions of lives depend on what happens next. Chairman Tamin found his voice at last. Admiral, the Council formally requests human military assistance in this crisis. We acknowledge our error in judgment. So-Jin looked at him with an expression that mixed pity with determination. Chairman, this is not a request. This is us doing what we always do, protecting those who cannot protect themselves. Your approval is not required. The hall erupted as delegates realized what they were witnessing. Humanity was not seeking permission or forgiveness. They were taking action because their conscience demanded it, regardless of political consequences. Over. The next few hours, the true scale of human preparation became clear. Hidden bases throughout the galaxy activated simultaneously. Stealth ships that had been monitoring Devourer movements revealed themselves. Human forces had been preparing for this battle since before the ban was implemented. The engagement began, in deep space, far from inhabited worlds. The Devourer fleet, accustomed to easy victories against predictable enemies, found themselves facing something entirely different. Human ships attacked in patterns that seemed random but revealed deadly coordination. Weapons fired in sequences that made no tactical sense until their true purpose became clear. They were designed not to cause maximum damage, but to confuse and overwhelm Devourer adaptation systems. All ships, execute Protocol Chaos 7, So-Jin, commanded from her flagship. Randomize attack patterns every 30 seconds. No ship follows the same approach twice. The Devourers, who had easily defeated every galactic fleet, found themselves unable to adapt to human tactics. Every time their systems began to analyze a pattern, humans switched to completely different methods. Traditional military doctrine was abandoned in favor of controlled chaos that no algorithm could predict. Human fighters used ramming attacks when the Devourers expected missiles. Human battleships retreated when logic said they should advance. Human commanders made decisions that violated every principle of space warfare and succeeded because their enemies could not comprehend such tactics. The battle raged for 12 hours. Human casualties were heavy, but the Devourer fleet began to break apart. Ships that had seemed invincible were destroyed by tactics they could not counter. The alien fleet, for the first time in their species' history, began to retreat. But humanity was not finished. As the surviving Devourers fled toward the galactic edge, human pursuit fleets followed. The message was clear: this threat would not be allowed to regroup and return. 3 days later, the Galactic Council met again. The chamber looked different now. Human representatives sat not as junior partners seeking approval, but as equals who had proven their worth when it mattered most. Chairman Tamin stood to address the assembly, his previous arrogance replaced by genuine humility. The Council offers its formal apology to humanity and requests that you resume your role in galactic defense on a permanent basis. Hyunwoo considered the request carefully before responding. We never wanted to lead the Ruai. Galaxy Chairman, we never sought to dominate other species or impose our will on galactic affairs. We only wanted to help. That desire has not changed. But, So-Jin added firmly, any future military cooperation will be conducted as equal partners. Humanity We'll not again accept second-class status in our own defense operations. The vote to reinstate human military participation was unanimous. But more importantly, the galaxy had learned a crucial lesson about the species they had so casually dismissed. Months later, Sojin stood on the observation deck of her flagship, watching joint training exercises between human and alien forces. This time, the cooperation was genuine. Species that had mocked human tactics now studied them carefully. Commanders who had called humans barbaric now requested human advisors. Yuna, the young pilot who had once hauled cargo through dangerous space alone, now commanded a mixed squadron of human and alien fighters. The trade routes she protected were secure, not because humans imposed peace, but because the galaxy had learned the value of working together. "Admiral," her communications officer reported, "incoming message from the Outer Rim colonies. They're reporting unusual energy signatures beyond the galactic edge." Sojin smiled grimly. "Alert Earth Command and prepare long-range reconnaissance missions. And send word to our alien allies. It looks like the galaxy might need defending again." The galaxy had mocked the ban on humans, thinking themselves superior to Earth's primitive military methods. They had learned too late that humanity's greatest strength was never their weapons or tactics. It was their refusal to abandon those in need, even when those same people had abandoned humanity first. In the darkness between stars, new threats might emerge. But now the galaxy faced them together, united not by laws or treaties, but by the hard-learned understanding that some protections were too precious to dismiss and some guardians too valuable to lose.